Hey there, film friends, Jonathan here, and today we're going to try something a little bit different. I've always intended for Story Arc to be more than just a place for my short films to live. I wanted to be able to come here and celebrate film and storytelling with other storytellers. So I thought when Nando v Movies, one of my favorite YouTube content creators, launched his One Villainous Scene playlist recently, not very recently by the time I get around to doing this video, but recently enough, I thought now is probably a good time for me to do something I've been meaning to do for a very long time. A video essay. So let's all just pretend that I had a really cool transition planned, and this is the segue.
Do I really look like a guy with a plan?
In honor of the recent release of James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, Nando's One Villainous Scene playlist asks us to reflect on one villain that we find personally interesting or intriguing, well-written, what have you. And so if you know me, you already know that I love a good villain. Like maybe too much.
Why are you so obsessed with me?
I love to play the villain, I love to write villains when I'm writing my own screenplays. Villains are just fun. So choosing just one villain to be the centerpiece of my first ever video essay was challenging. I considered the Joker in The Dark Knight, because of course.
You're just too much fun.
I considered Thanos and Killmonger. I even considered the Armitage family in Jordan Peele's masterpiece, Get Out.
You know I can't give you the keys, right, babe?
And even more abstract, I considered unresolved trauma and the cult of Paimon in the film that has probably most influenced my personal creative sensibilities in the last few years, Ari Aster's Hereditary. But ultimately, I decided to go with my favorite evil Superman analog, Hyperion. Kidding. Omni-Man. No, that's not right. You guys saw the title, you know who we're talking about. We are talking about
Homelander. I am talking to the Homelander.
Homelander?
You boys okay?
Oh, and I guess it goes without saying, spoilers for The Boys. If you have not yet seen it, and for some reason you still want to see it, but you haven't yet, even though it's been out for a long enough time, you know what? You don't need the spoiler warning, but I'm saying it anyway. Let's jump into the video. In my opinion, there's no one singular definitive trait that makes a good villain. Sometimes they are a perfect foil to the hero, like the Joker and Batman. Sometimes they're just really relatable, like Loki or Killmonger. And sometimes they are great just because they're a fun force of nature to watch on screen, tearing through everyone. Like the literal force of nature of the Twisters in Twister, or Anton Chigurh, though there's, I would argue, some philosophical reasons he's great too. Homelander doesn't fit neatly into any one of those boxes. Not really. In truth, there are a lot of characteristics that make Homelander an interesting watch. He's a perfect hyperbole for modern supremacists, far-right ideologies, and celebrity culture as a whole. Not to mention that Anthony Starr is a genius in the role and his performance. But if I had to pick one reason, the best reason that Homelander is a great villain, it's that of relatability. Now, I'm not saying that a head-squishing, ear-bursting, hole-punching psychopath who casually shoves his own son off a roof is personally relatable.
Are you okay?
Far from it. He's disturbing, sickening even. Especially once he starts shacking up with a 100-year-old German radical. I can't say the word for what she really is, but we all know. But Homelander's motivation, his core driving need behind every choice that he makes, conscious or unconscious, that's relatable. It's obvious to anyone that watches The Boys that Homelander craves attention. Almost literally every Homelander scene in both seasons of the show points to this. Homelander himself rants and rages about demographics and ratings points, celebrity metrics. But I'd argue that is Homelander's want, not his need, even though in this case I think they are very similar. And Season 2 does a great job of showing us the difference between the two, as well as the tragic flaw that gets in the way of him getting what he needs. There's one scene that, in my opinion, encapsulates all of this, and everything else that makes Homelander such a great character. But before we cover it, we need to talk about the two characters Season 2 uses to illustrate these parts of Homelander's character most clearly for us. Stormfront and Ryan. Let's start with Ryan. Throughout season 2, Homelander is extremely protective of his son. Well, except, shoving him off a rooftop. He goes out of his way to try and earn Ryan's adoration, and at times he almost seems to genuinely care about the boy. He tries to get Ryan to love him, but he takes shortcuts to that love through manipulation, control, and lots of showboating.
You're in a movie?
I'm in a bunch of movies, man. Let's see, there's Homelander Origins.
Next, there's Stormfront. When she shows up in season 2, she's initially an antagonistic presence to Homelander. She's a master manipulator, and she intentionally pokes, prods, and taunts Homelander about his precious fandom. She's confident playing games with the most dangerous man in the world because she understands that he wants fame and power, but he needs love. And she, at first, pits want and need against each other.
Yay!
Stormfront very intentionally shows Homelander just how fragile his traditional celebrity status is so that she can supplant it. In her big confession in episode 6, she at first simply seems to stun Homelander. He's confused, he's not sure what to do with all these big, bonkers revelations. But Stormfront begins to win him over the moment she suggests he can have the ultimate spotlight. Leading an army of supermen, thousands strong, conquering the globe. But that's not what ultimately convinces Homelander to forgive and be with her. It's only when she proclaims love for him and tells him he'll never be alone again that she really seals the deal. In a masterstroke of manipulation, Stormfront offers Homelander his want and his need in the same package. He's hooked.
Terrific!
Okay, now all of that brings us to the one scene where it all comes together. One villainous scene where everything that makes Homelander a compelling villain is on full display. And it's not head-popping or lasering people in half, though it does come shortly after plenty of that.
Where's my son?
In the season 2 finale, Homelander discovers that Billy Butcher has Ryan, and he catches up to them in the woods, literally covered head to toe in the blood of Vought's private soldiers. Upon arriving, he finds Stormfront, mangled and delirious, and we see emotions Homelander hasn't really shown us before. He's actually truly saddened. Not for very long and not very deeply, but he is actually upset. Then we see him swallow that emotion. He remembers who he came for, and also realizes that Ryan must have done this. He tries to compel Ryan to leave with him. And wouldn't you know it, Ryan's not too keen on leaving with his blood-soaked murder daddy whose girlfriend just tried and succeeded in killing his mom. Ryan chooses Butcher over Homelander, and it breaks him a little. In a single wheezing laugh, Anthony Starr portrays the deepest hurt and the most inhuman hate that we've seen out of Homelander probably the entire season. It's brilliant. In this scene, Homelander's tragic flaw is truly on display. He needs love, but he's incapable of really feeling or giving love. He's truly a monster, and only another monster, like Stormfront, could ever love him. And the scene only gets better from there. Queen Maeve arrives just as Homelander is about to butcher Billy, pun intended, and reveals that she has the footage from the plane crash in season 1, threatening to release it. Homelander, of course, threatens right back.
If you do that, I'll destroy everything and everyone.
Maeve calls him out on his need.
As long as everyone sees what a monster you are. As long as no one ever loves you again.
And then, oh boy. Anthony Starr's genius surfaces again as we watch Homelander's brow twitch, his eyes closing as we see him devastated by the thought. We can hear crowds cheering his name in his head as he makes his decision. And ultimately, defeated, Homelander chooses the easy love of his fans over keeping his son. His wants and flaw outweigh his true need, and the world's most dangerous man is rendered temporarily harmless as Butcher and Ryan brush right past him to safety. So yeah, that's my one villainous scene. No big fights, no overly long, complicated, but fun villain monologue, nothing like that. Instead, just one short, emotional, very tense scene that is packed to the brim with character fulfillment and development, and shows that the big bad of the boys is nothing more than a desperate monster needing love that he's never going to be worthy of, never going to receive. But needing love, that's relatable. That, I think, is what makes Homelander a great character, even if he's hard to watch. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, this is my first video essay ever, so there's definitely gonna be some cracks in the surface here. So please excuse the flaws. I've been working on this on very spare time. It's probably coming out way later than the rest of the playlist on Nando V Movies One Villainous Scene playlist, but wanted to make sure it got done. And if you like this video, please just drop a like and drop a comment down below letting me know. I would love your support. And I would also like to know, do you agree with my assessment of Homelander? Do you have a different villainous scene or villain that you want to talk about? I'd love to have those discussions with you. Now I'm just rambling, so thanks again for being here, and I'll see you next time.